And still on the front page, and I'd like to start with you, and that's and there's a blame game over unapproved university courses. That's on the front page of the Daily Nation. Commission for University Education says institutions that are awarding fake degrees for commercial gain, but university says the regulator is sleeping on the job. I'd like to hear your opinion on this. Yeah, there's a full story on that on the back page, but there was also a push and pull yesterday. CUE was saying that it's not that the courses are useless, it's that they've not been approved.
Okay.
In your view, how does this work out? Who's fooling who on this one?
Well, I think it's somebody is not standing up and taking responsibility, quite frankly. And I think we need to understand why this conversation is happening.
Yeah.
The reason why this conversation is happening around fake courses is because young people have been told education will get you the job and a way to get an income. So we have to be honest that a lot of education institutions are churning out courses for money making, not necessarily because they're aligned with the developmental agenda of the country. So we need to understand there's a profit motive going on there.
Yeah.
But I think there could be better oversight generally of the university space around ensuring courses are actually relevant to speak to the needs of the Kenya Association of Manufacturers or the actual skills required to drive the country forward. So I think this is a much more complex problem because of the profit motive and the reality that young people are being told if you do these courses you'll get jobs, and of course whether that materializes or not is a separate issue.
Something else, yeah. Dr. Chris, and this is not your docket again, but as a parent and someone who lives in the country, is there a cause for alarm? CUE says there's no cause for alarm, but we've also seen what she was saying, that we churn out very many graduates, no jobs, not enough skill sets, and now this comes up.
From where I sit in the Ministry of Industry and Trade, it is a very important topic because we feel that the market requires relevant courses. We need to see university students coming out with the qualifications that are absorbed by the market. I see at the moment that we have too many of them out in the market. They are not being absorbed. Yeah. Maybe it's an issue not just for the universities, but also for the regulator, but the entire ministry. And I know the ministry is focusing on that. That's the Ministry of Education and the entire government, particularly focusing on TVET courses, looking at skills, which are, it's not just getting an academic qualification, it's also getting skills, particularly in areas like artisan and going up the ladder, all the way even up to degrees. But even when you get degree, it needs to be really linked to the industry. Yeah. And I see a lot that is missing, the missing link. We don't see universities having a strong link with the industry, so that if we find students getting opportunity even to work in industry, and you have also that by the time they finish, they are ready to take up the jobs. I see that requiring some improvement.
I'm glad the CEO of the Kenya Association of Manufacturers is sitting right next to you. She now gets a chance to respond. There's always been a discussion about graduates who are ready to work and employers complaining that they're still not at the caliber. Unfortunately, the word half-baked has become quite cliche. Let me get your thoughts on where you think we are as a nation today, even as we grapple with such a headline.
The issue of skills matching the industry needs and ensuring that skills are relevant is a conversation we've had over and over again.
If the skills are not relevant.
There's need for closer partnership and alignment, as both Anzete and PS have said, because we start by identifying the training need. Even in your organization, before you train, you say, what is the training need? So are we having those conversations as the commission, as universities, to say, what is the training need in the market? And then what are the new trends? Considering we're in a global economy where things are moving very quickly, are we then upgrading our courses to those new trends? There's something we're currently doing with the University of Nottingham, University of Nairobi, and a number of universities in Kenya, where we are looking at the curriculum in pharmacy and sitting with industry and saying, this is what is in the curriculum, what should it be? So I think that closer interaction across board is critical. Also for technical skills, ensuring that when we bring graduates into the market, they are ready to work. And they can only be ready if they are attached to industry as they learn. In countries like Germany, if you visit VDMA, one of their associations, they are working very closely with the training institutions and industries. As people go to school, they go to school in the morning, they're in industry in the afternoon. No, half the week they're in school, the other week they're in industry. So that very deliberate partnership between industry and universities. We've been doing something on TVETs, working with the training institutions and industry, bringing in the graduates, having them there for 6 months, they learn on the job. So I think more of that needs to be done if we're going to have relevant skills in the market.
Yeah, and Prof, this is also one of the issues that you're very much involved in this sort of thing. And we were speaking, and she brought up a very interesting aspect of new trends. and trying to cope up with that. We were speaking to our business editor earlier on, Bonyo, and he said that the issue is there's a lot of institutional breakdown. Because even when the new trends are there, the universities will not respond on time. And even if they respond on time, they will not get approval on time. And then there's the issue of the TVETs as well. Where do you think the issue lies here?
I don't know where to start. This thing is complex.
It's complex.
It's complex. And there's a lot of confusion and sometimes a bit of ignorance along the way.
Yeah.
One, the issue of half-baked graduates, if they are such, is informed by what you should call ignorance if you want it. Basically,
ignorance on the part of who?
Many people, including me, you and I. See, including manufacturers here and the rest of these fellows and the PS here. You see, a university is not a training institute. A university does not offer skills, does not train people and give them skills to do things. The university trains the mind, the intellect, so that now you're talking about being on the cutting edge of knowledge in various areas. But now we have mixed and we are trying to turn university. For a long time, careers even like nursing were not quite acceptable by university. The careers that were mainly skilled, people say, well, this you offer in an institute, not at a university where you deal with the mind and the intellect. So that confusion is partly explains the confusion around. And that again builds into the conversation of really how many universities we have. Really, why are we talking about skills, yet we as a country have killed all the technical training institutes. All the polytechnics, we have turned them into universities. Then now, after a few years later, we turn around and say, our graduates can't move this to there. The place to train somebody to do this was at Kenya Polytechnic, at the TVETs that we all destroyed and turned into universities. So you see, so there's a whole, how much do you spend on research at the universities? You see, what are the management structures we have in universities to be able to make universities operational? What is the funding? What are the funding levels? If you look at serious countries and see how much they spend on their universities, on research, then you'll have to agree that we are not serious people. So this conversation is there because of a lot of misplaced thinking and
Let me actually move your argument forward before I take on the next story. If the government was to, per se open polytechnics in every county, let's assume they take that as one of the goals they want to achieve over the next couple of years. Until employers are willing to pay a diploma holder the amount of money they're willing to pay a degree holder, until that day comes, does it matter how many polytechnics we have?
Yeah, in fact, there's already policy to put one high-level technical training college, whatever they call them, in every.
How do you change the perception of
almost every sub-county?
It's actually two.
PS says there's two.
It's two per every county.
Per every county.
And when we started in 2013, we had 41 polytechnics or TVETs. Over time, we have increased by 150 to now around 200. And there's been a lot of effort, I think more than 30 also to equip. If you go to a lot of these polytechnics, there's been an attempt to equip them. So there's a lot of effort, and I want to agree with Professor. Of course, the issue around skills is different from being in the university, but I think both are important because you require the skilled people to also join up with those who are coming out from the university. It doesn't mean that the universities are necessarily doing a good job. I think they could do better because we see the graduates coming out and you feel like they could be better.
But the perception
But I wanted to answer your question.
based on papers rather than skills.
The PS says, you see, the PS talked about increasing, and there will be many. So to answer your question, but I think the question you have in mind is, are they going to be value for money? The answer is no. First, you have made everybody believe unless you have a degree, you are useless. So people can only go there because they have no option,
they have no other option.
because they have failed. But more fundamentally, those TVETs is a complete waste of public resources because nobody would value them. Students don't want to go there. There is no policy to encourage. You see, everything we have, like what we use in our schools and elsewhere, and the shoes we wear, if they were made in this country, if the things the students learn in those polytechnics and then produce them, if the things had market, if they had market, you get it, then we will be talking of those TVETs being important, useful. But they are not, because the things, even things like beds in our schools, which can be made by our Juakali. Do we buy them? We buy all manner of things, all these things.
Let's see that is why we are having this conversation today. Because unless we grow industry to the level that we are anticipating in the Big Four agenda, those jobs will not be as attractive as they should be. In countries where industry is big, I've visited Germany, and the people you work with on the shop floor are earning probably more than the degree holders.
Yeah.
Because for them, they have grown their industry to the level that they are exporting. They are big industrial players. That way, the technical jobs will be important.
All right.
They will have the value for money. And then the change of mindsets.
All right,
because very many parents are not going to...
Hold that thought. We need to bring in a
take
caller online. Dixon from Kericho. Dixon, good morning. What's your question or comment? Dixon, good morning.
Nixon, if you can hear us, please state your comment or give us your question.
All right, we'll get back to Nixon in just a bit. Yeah, you wanted to jump in on
No,
this?
I just wanted to say, I think I would like Prof to be a bit fair to the government. Because for sure, we have put a lot of effort to build TVET institutions. And as I've said, there are now over 200. And if you go, a lot of them are equipped. And the issue of interest, actually, I don't agree with it, because most of the polytechnics are now full of students. Yes, there may have been some low interest initially, but there's been a pickup. And we're talking also to industry, we see a lot of appreciation of the graduates now coming out of TVET, particularly when now most of the polytechnics are equipped with a lot of the requirements that they need. Yeah. And I know our colleagues at the Ministry of Education, particularly in the TVET, are working around the clock. In fact, it is one of those that is part of the manufacturing pillar in terms of skills development, and we are really focusing on that.
And as I said, we've already started doing programs with the training institutes. Yeah. There's room for growth, a lot of room for growth and investment, so that we have more graduates actually practically in industry. Last year we were able to put about 800, but the scale is...
Hold that thought just one second. We have Dixon back on the line.
Hopefully
again.
We have him.
Dixon, good morning. State your comment or question.
Morning, Waiga.
Morning. We're here with Trevor. And oh my God.
Yeah. What I want to say is...
yes.
I think we dropped the ball somewhere. In fact, I want to see one of the senior teachers in this country by the name Otoa Sifuna.
Yes.
Admitting very well that the kind of even sciences that's being carried in high school nowadays is different with what was being carried just 2000 and below. What went wrong? Who brought these changes? For instance, if Kenya is a country that's based 60% on GDP on agriculture, and agriculture is not being carried in the entire primary system, then you bring it in high school. Surely, who came up with this, that all tertiary institutions were turned to university? This person should be looked where he is and stand before Kenyan and answer questions.
All right, Dixon.
All polytechnic were turned to university. We need only one doctor for 20 nurses. We need one engineer for 60 craftsmen. And nowadays you did it vice versa.
Okay,
right.
Nixon,
and we can't ask this question. I'm disappointed with those who make policy and implementers in this country.
All right, thanks, Dixon. That's Dixon from Kericho.
Frustration.
Frustration.
And I think sort of linking to everything that they're saying, I think another fundamental problem that we're having around training is that even the people who are active in that, whether it's the Juakali, etc., say, I will not spend my time going to a TVET because the skills and the relevance is not speaking to what I'm doing right now currently. So I think we need to understand that TVET and training and upskilling of technical is not just the young graduates. There has to be a constant process of upskilling the people who are active in the industry to make them more competitive and to make them more productive. So beyond an education role of TVETs and technical schools, we also have to look at the productivity role. Because if we're getting graduates coming into businesses that are not productive either because they are not upskilled enough or they don't have the right equipment, then really what are we doing? We're just sending a bunch of skilled graduates to businesses that are not necessarily as productive as they could be. So I think there needs to be effort, and I think the ministry is doing it, and not only upskilling the TVETs in terms of making them more relevant in terms of content and machinery, but also linking them to the actual clusters, whether it's the furniture clusters or the metalwork clusters, and making sure the people who are active in those are using the skills and equipment that will make them to be more productive and profitable. Because we can't, education is there not just for the sense of a great mind or a good mind, but we also want people to be productive and have a dignified way of earning a living. So we need to link those, I think, a bit more fundamentally.
It has to make sense at the end of the day. Now, wow, one
just on that, that's the role that the
yeah.
NITA plays, the National Industrial Training Authority. Yesterday, we actually signed with them, as the Manufacturing Academy at CAM will be working with them under the KEP, the Kenya Youth Empowerment Program, to train people on practical skills. And we are looking at a sectoral approach. Like for our textile sector, they need their workers constantly skilled for the export market. So we are working on a curriculum with them specific for the textile sector, out of the needs we've identified in the sector for on-the-job training for those people who are already in employment. And also for new people, because today we are saying we want to grow the textile sector. But tomorrow, if a big player came into the market, they would create disruption because they would poach from all these people. We don't have the ready skills. So we're also working to train a pool of people who will be ready for that growth we're anticipating.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hammond, your
Just
comment will
half
take
a
us to the
second.
break. Thank you.
Half a second. Of course, we must say this. You see, we can equip all these technical training institutes and whatever you call them, give them the best. But until we get to a point where we link them with the industry and the government plays the first role. For example, there is, say, Kaiboi Technical Training Institute. Maybe it is teaching building engineering at diploma level. Next door to it, there's a primary school being built using government funds. Why don't you put them there? Our engineers at the University of Nairobi and other universities, all these Chinese projects, why are they not on those projects? Then you talk about relevance of skills. You see, we miss it by a wide berth. And finally, because this is where we started, the problem you are seeing with these so-called useless, they are called useless courses.
University courses.
Of course, it's because of the spread and because of the many universities turning village polytechnics into university and all that. But the bigger problem here is this so-called Q. Is it Commission of University Education? Here is a body without any capacity to inspect the universities. I laugh when I see Q trying to inspect the University of Nairobi. What capacity do they have?
Can you be a bit more specific?
I saw them. And you see, when our vice chancellors are also very weak people. Our vice chancellors are also, I don't know what's wrong with our vice chancellors. They're also very weak people. When these things are being put in place, they don't even question. I saw the University of Nairobi queuing to be accredited, queuing with Kabianga, queuing with St. Paul's to get a charter. I said, God, what is happening in this country? Queuing to have their law programs approved. I said, who in queue has the capacity to inspect the University of Nairobi? You get it? Instead of seeding universities and saying, Nairobi, University of Nairobi, Kenyatta, these are seeded, they should help other small universities grow. Okay. You see that kind of thinking? It is lacking. So you find Kabianga is queuing to have its courses, programs approved, and I am behind them from the University of Nairobi.
Also waiting for the same.
What are we talking about?